You are listening to the Faces for the Future podcast, a podcast dedicated to exploring the stories of young creatives. My name is Jacob Deere. I'm a documentary photographer, publisher, and visual artist, and I'm going to be sitting down with creators to listen to their inspiration, interests, and process, hearing the lessons they have learned and how they broke out of the mold. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Faces for the Future podcast. We're on episode 8. Episode 8. I know I say this all the time in every episode, but I still can't believe these episodes are going. And also thank you for all the feedback from you guys. In this episode, I have a very special guest. His name is Taylor Topham. He is a musician, fairly well versed in travelling, might I add, and also all-round nice guy. In this episode, we speak about travelling, music, and up-and-coming projects, and how he's dealing with the lockdown here in the UK.
Man.
Somehow look professional with a laptop. I'm not sure how, but we figured that out.
Yeah, man. Hey, congrats on what you're doing, man. It sounds like you're getting quite a good feedback on it. Then Burnham-on-sea got you on the thing, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, thank you. Just had an article out in the Weekly News about the podcast, which was really nice. Shout out to Alice.
No way. Sick.
Really cool, man. Really good. You're doing some cool stuff as well, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, doing a few bits. It's been harder through lockdown, eh? Well, you know, I'm just trying to do it. How does this work then? Are we just on now? Or?
Straight off the bat, brother. Straight off the bat.
Ah, is it? Oh, sick.
We'll cut in whenever we need to, but who knows? It might be a straight run.
Yeah, cool, man. Cool. Yeah, man. I think I've been trying to get bits done and stuff, but through lockdown, it's been a bit of a twist of events, isn't it? I had a fair few gigs planned throughout the summer. I had a number of festivals. I can say them now because had Godney Gathering and Watch It Festival and stuff that were all planned out. But obviously, you know, stuff happens, doesn't it? And things change and your plans have to change. And I had about 30 odd gigs altogether planned for the summer, and then that took a massive snowball and a dive. But
that must be incredibly sort of tricky to deal with, having so much planned and then it just sort of suddenly stop.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's savage, man. Because obviously, I'd been away for a number of years traveling, and then this is my. Oh, fuck.
Oh. That's the first phone fall of the podcast.
Is it? I'm holding it. I'm gonna hold it. It was. I travelled a lot, and it was my first summer back in England, and I was like, I made this a big one by getting a few gigs planned, and didn't really. Obviously, things got in the way, but it's alright, man. Lots of other things come out of it. I think with every negative thing that happens, a lot of positive stuff comes out too.
Yeah, totally.
Which is good.
You've been really active on social media, I've seen, with live streams and stuff like that.
Yeah, trying to keep it together, man. Like I've had quite a bit of time off music as well, but wherever I can, I'm trying to get a video done, put it on YouTube, or I've done a live stream for charity. That was good fun, and then I did a few busking things for supermarkets and stuff. But just trying to keep myself busy as well, man. Because if I didn't, I'd go a bit crazy, I think.
Yeah, I think most of us would actually. That's kind of why, I started this podcast. It's something I always wanted to start, and then lockdown happened, and I thought, hey, I got nothing but free time now, so might as well make the most of that, And
that's the thing, man. I think with especially with people that struggle with mental health and stuff, or just people in general, really. Like when this sort of thing happens, mate. When this started, I was like, oh man, this is going to be so bad for me. Like I'm going to end up in a very bad place, mentally, but. I guess it's either one, luckily for me, I found things to do. Like I found, I've started running and exercising a little bit more, but, you kind of either do one thing, you're either going to slope down and slump into quite a deep, dark place, or you can, make some changes and try and adapt and move forward with it, which is luckily for me. I know it's hard, man, because a lot of people it hasn't happened to. Like I heard about yesterday, because I have a fitness background, one of these bodybuilders I used to follow committed suicide, and it's like, Christ. Mate, and I was speaking yesterday with somebody about statistics of stuff, and a lot of people have struggled so hard, and I'm just grateful that I've managed to find some stuff to to keep my head on throughout this period.
Totally, man. I think for anyone that does suffer with mental health, the idea of being stuck in one place is, that's the worst thing, because there's no way of getting away from it. You can't run away from the demons that might be in one's head as such. So it makes it much more difficult to deal with. Myself, I've been sort of up and down, especially the last couple of weeks. Having a good day today, yesterday not so much. It's one of those things, and I totally agree. I think you're going to see a lot of people either come out of this stronger, which would be fantastic, and that would be a positive, and better understanding of themselves, or people that are really going to be questioning what it is they're doing and where their headspace is at. And I think the fact that yourself has got not only a creative outlet, but just an outlet in general, similar to myself and other artists, I think it's a way of just expression.
Definitely, man. And the thing is as well, like another thing that probably people might struggle with is like a lot of people's whole identity depends upon external factors, which is quite hard, which I've realized now. I'm like, fuck, sometimes I think without music or anything like that, like, am I, like, what am I, whether, without being identified as a musician, it's hard. So I'm trying to like separate myself a little bit from that in my own head, just so that like, if things ever change or things go down or things, like this has happened where I can't actually actively play music anymore, you have to adapt and adjust. But the thing is, man, like, there's nothing wrong with people people might fall apart a little bit throughout this period, but I'm just hoping that, the support systems are in place for them, which obviously, maybe they're not in some ways, but it's going to be a big wake up call for a lot of people. Yeah,
I think, I was speaking with a friend of mine. I think we're going to see, we're either going to see a drastic change in society, or we're not going to see a change at all. I don't think there's going to be much middle ground in all of this.
Yeah, man. No, I think there's going to be a big change. I think it's two polar sides as well, man. Like, I think it's either going to be, like you say, in one way or the other. I think we're either going to go back and slump back into those old habits and that old routine, or we're going to use this as an opportunity to grow and realize that we couldn't carry on going the way we were going. But totally. It's going to be hard with social distancing and stuff, because we are sort of, as if we weren't enough separating ourselves from each other with, the internet and ordering things online and self-service checkouts in supermarkets and things. Like, I'm hoping that after this we can actually come closer together instead of get further apart, but we'll see how it works out, man. As long as we're on the right side, man, the good side, and we're trying to promote positive change.
100%. As long as we're all still breathing, that's what really matters at the end of the day, is that we're still breathing, we're still going. But no, it's interesting you say that, because I've listened. So, bit of backstory for the people listening and or watching. Me and Taylor are actually in the same year at school. I think both of us have actually changed quite drastically since King Alfred's, man. Actually. And I don't, I think we sort of reconnected recently, actually, because yourself has been traveling for a long time, and I started listening to your music again, and Learn How to Love has been my morning stretch song for the last 2 weeks, and it's such a good vibe, man.
No, that's good, man. That's good. No, it's true, man. It's true. Like, school's a difficult one, isn't it? I think I'm not very big on education system as it is as current, because I don't think it stimulates the growth in the right places. I think it lacks a lot of creative drive for people. It's a lot of indoctrination and following a system. I think that if you look at some other new age upcoming educational systems, like in Scandinavian countries like Sweden and stuff, it's a lot more preparing you for the real world and a lot of skills you can actually transfer into the real world, because you don't learn anything in school, man. Like, you don't learn like how to care for the environment. Well, maybe it's changed now, man, but when we were at school we didn't learn any of those things. And
no, definitely.
There's this masculine ego environment with a bunch of young lads trying to find their own way and trying to grow, as young men and stuff like that. And I don't know, man. It's just different, isn't it? I just think that I definitely got lost in that hard. Like, I didn't really know what was going on in my mind, and it took me a lot of different things. Cause I've done loads of different things, man. Like, I've got a master's degree in exercise and nutrition, and followed weightlifting and exercise part of my life for a long time before I found what I would probably say my true calling is, which is where I'm at now. But it's interesting, isn't it? School is a funny one, because a lot of people do change, and it's important to know that you're not who you always were. You know what I mean? So
yeah, totally. And I think the past, whatever happens in our past, is always going to reflect in our future, whether that's a positive or a negative, and it's always going to feed.
Mate, I couldn't agree more, man.
And I think
I couldn't agree more, man. This is the thing. This is like, a lot of people think that it's hard, hey, because like the past is the past, and like a lot of people always say to me, like, oh, you should leave the past where it is. But at the end of the day, man, like, the decisions you make, it's very important. it's great that you can learn from your past and stuff, but the decisions you make, man, they do reflect upon your life. You know, they have everlasting repercussions a lot of the time. So it's important to, and this is the thing as well, man. Like we're taught too early to make these decisions. Like, you know, when we choose our career path in year 9 when we're like 13. When we choose our GCSEs or whatever it is, like, well, how do we know what's going on then, man? I don't even know what's going on. I'm 25 now. That's a lifetime ago for me now, choosing those. Yeah, and I don't have a clue what's going on. I don't know who I am still.
Yeah.
When we're
I think
it's interesting.
I think especially, you know, when we were at school, it was scary to think it was 10 years ago roughly or so. Which makes me feel rather old, even though I'm not.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, I think, you know, I've been working a little bit with King Alfred's before the whole world went into meltdown, and it has definitely changed a little bit, I believe, especially the artistic background. But yeah, when we were young, it was strenuous to say the least. You know,
man.
All these groups of kids, and you know, I was sort of quite badly bullied when I was year 7, 8, 9, and then I was telling this story. I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent now, but
go, man.
I was telling this story to a friend of mine, how I had like a really bad BMX accident. God, I was year 9, I think. Until that point, I was being bullied at school. Anyways, this accident took me out for months. I broke bones in my face. You know, it was a really bad crash.
No way.
And so I disappeared off the face of the earth. Like, nobody knew me, because this is just as Facebook was starting to be a thing.
Yeah.
So Bebo, shout out to anyone
Bebo,
that might actually have
classics.
a Bebo account. But anyways, so I was gone. There was this rumor going around that I was dead, and then suddenly I appeared at school one day, and the whole perception of me and me being bullied had gone. Like, you know, I was suddenly a kind of not cool kid, because I hate to use that term, but I wasn't bullied anymore. It was really weird. Like, school for me personally was this battleground of just not knowing anything, and I think that actually shaped me more than I realise now, especially.
Yeah, man. This is the thing as well. Like, but with all that as well, like, kids, it's hard with kids, isn't it? Kids are horrible, man. Like, I guess you have to have thick skin, because we all do it when we're kids in a playground, because kids don't know what they say, man. Like, and it's hard, because I've never really been bullied, man. But like, I can understand, I can empathise a lot with people that go through that, and it's hard. But yeah, kids, man, like, you don't know, do you? You can say it, people get. I remember at school, man, people got rinsed, like bad, and like it was just what it was, and like that was just like, I don't know, it was almost a normalised part of school, like that. That's just how it was, man. And like, it's a shame, because like, you know, the real world isn't. Well, maybe it is like that, I guess, a bit in certain environments, but
I dread to think what it's like being a kid nowadays with Twitter and Snapchat.
Man, with the phones. With the phones, and
that's like.
I'm being a teacher, man. That must suck even more. Like, I don't think I even had a phone. Like, not a smartphone, but you know, everyone's got videos out and Snapchat and all that stuff now.
Yeah, definitely. I used to play Snakes and Ladders. They're probably playing Snapchat now.
Yeah, right. I wonder if they are, though, man. It'd be good to know if they are teaching more current issues and current affairs, environmental sustainability, food choice. You know, all these concepts. It'd be good to know if they are, you know, getting into the thick of things a bit gritty. But I think, you know, they try and there is curriculum as well. There's curriculum, isn't there? They have the government ordered curriculum that they have to teach. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So for yourself, after school, you kind of went off traveling a little bit after that, didn't you?
Well, I did school. I did college. I followed the fitness path, man. But I used to compete in bodybuilding shows for
I was
going to
say, in my research, I found some pictures of yourself looking absolutely jacked, and I was like, when did Taylor look jacked?
Yeah, it's funny, man. So I just followed that path, and like, I went to university in Southampton. I studied a fitness exercise degree. I then went. Then I started my travel towards the end of that. I did 2 summers in the States, in Costa Rica, looking after children and stuff like that. It was like a camp thing. And from then I was like, oh, you know, that sort of sparked my idea of traveling. I went to university in Plymouth and studied a master's degree in nutritional science, but then started drifting off into traveling a little bit more after competing in bodybuilding shows and stuff. And that's really why I started to find music, and was like, oh, I don't really know if I can want to keep up this whole bodybuilding thing, because it's all it was, man. It was all, I can definitely reflect on that part of my life and think that was all appearance based. egotism towards, thinking that was important, how I looked and muscularity and stuff. And then yeah, man, I travelled, went to Australia, and that's when my music sort of started to kick off, really. I went to a place called Byron Bay, which is up on the middle of the East Coast, still in New South Wales, and the massive music scene there, busking and music, and picked up a guitar in a shop there and bought a little amp and went out on the streets, and then that was it, really. I knew I was going to do music for a long period of time.
Just got you hooked.
Which was cool. Yeah, man, it was just a creative, we talk about creative, environments, that was so ideal for creativity, man. There was beautiful murals on the walls, there was artists, there was musicians, there was speakers, there was poets, phenomenal. All different aspects of art and creativity. It was just a hub for that, and that's that was what it was, man. Growth as well, a hub for growth, whether it's emotional, physical, spiritual. There's a lot of different people there from all different countries, so yeah, man,
it's interesting.
That was the one.
You're sort of saying about the bodybuilding and the sort of this idea of identity through body shape, I suppose. In that,
yeah, man,
I think a lot of people, myself included, we potentially on a day-to-day basis look in the mirror and think, what are we doing? Why am I not slimmer? Why am I not more muscular? And it's really interesting to hear from yourself, who was in that world, by the sounds of things, fully engulfed in that world. To sort of find something that's completely different.
Yeah, this is the thing, man. I think a lot of decisions, I think we'd be surprised at how many decisions we make in our lives stem from insecurity, and especially about self-image and things like that, man. 100% that whole career path was likely started off initially anyway is due to probably some sort of insecurity somewhere inside me, So and deciding what we do, photos we post on social media, sexualizing ourselves, all of these ideas of which realistically, if we ask ourselves, I think deep down, probably do stem from an insecure part of who we are, whether it's of how we look or maybe we're thinking we're not good enough in certain ways, which is a shame. I'm really, really trying and hoping that society can move to a place where we're not making these decisions out of insecurity and fear of what people might think of us anymore, and we're just doing what feels true to us, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, man. And
yeah, definitely,
and it's okay, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think the fact that you sort of took that chance, I suppose, and went over to Australia and just started busking and trying to actually discover your real interest, by the sounds of things.
Yeah, definitely, man.
That's, I think a lot of people, that's all they can sort of ask for in themselves.
And don't get me wrong, man, Jesus, it was so hard. I remember losing muscle mass loads and just losing heaps of weight and getting super skinny and being fuck, man, it was a hit, man. It was a hit to my ego. It was. Sure. So I was I remember thinking that that was what made a man. That was a man masculine thing to be, to have certain muscle mass and to talk and be a certain way. And now my masculinity comes from helping other people and helping animals and trying to tell the truth. That's where my masculinity comes now. There's this whole idea that being alpha is, being out there and all these ideas on what makes a man. And I just think that they're the things that don't make a man. They're the common things that, if anything, are just so far away from what we should be doing, which is protecting other people and caring for other things. And it's hard, man, because we're sort of, and I know you probably feel the same, man. We're sort of caught in this world now where half of a big proportion of those people still hold that belief very close to their heart. So when you go into environments like that, especially competitive environments, people are like that, or even social environments, a lot of people do. They still hold that masculine belief, and as soon as someone comes along and travels it and challenges that, it can be quite confrontational. But you just have to sort of go with that and be true to who you are, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the rise of sort of social media and especially Instagram has created this unobtainable level of need or want to look a certain way.
Man.
I listen to so many podcasts, and some of the podcasts they say how the idea of the perfect person is built off of social media now, rather than a magazine cover, which I find really interesting, that we're all part of this.
Yeah, man, and there's so many there's so few idols or people that people idolize. You don't really hear a lot in the paper, you know, when it's very not people idolize footballers or musicians or singers. It's like, man, like we should be idolizing the people that create positive change. Idolize a person that's like feeding thousands of people, you know, in England and overseas. Idolize the people that are transporting water. Idolize the people that are doing their best to protect the environment. We've created these false idols through Instagram and places like that, for sure, man. And man, I'm tied up with it as well, man. Like, fuck. I literally, I'll post a photo. Recently, my reach on Instagram has just like plummeted. I don't know why. And like, man, and I get like a bit gutted, man. Like, I'll post a photo and it gets like 50 likes or something, and I'm like, oh, what? Like, I have to check myself, man, because otherwise I will go and be like, fuck, man, people don't like me anymore. My music's crap, or I'm chatting shit. Like, I have to really seriously check myself, man. Like, often, and be like, all right, Tay, like it's nothing. Like, it's just a like on a button. It's like, I have to, man, because otherwise I will get so caught up with that, and then I'll be depressed. Like, that is, you know. And if you can't do that, man, then I understand it, man. Like, it's hard, like, and people won't be able to do that, and then unfortunately, then they'll end up feeling, you know, the repercussions of being so interconnected with your social media presence is hard. Like, it is.
Yeah, totally. And I think, you know, for myself, I fall into that quite often, and I'm trying to pull myself away from this, you know, need to have likes on images as such. I went from putting myself on Instagram every single day and posting pictures on Instagram every single day and other social media platforms to now trying not to do it very often, or only doing it if it helps others as well. And it's definitely created a shift in my head. There was something that, almost a barrier that was stopping me from making that change before, and I think it was almost, it sounds, I don't know if anyone else would feel the same, but it was almost this sensation of being wanted, you know, having likes on an image, or somebody saying, you look great in this, blah, 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 whatever it is. Having that creates this necessity of feeling wanted. And then when you come to the realization that's fake, it's false, it's the internet.
None of that is real, man.
Yeah.
And this is the thing as well, man. People start, the worst thing you can do, I think, is to get to a point where people respect you for this image, or you know, care about you for this image that you portray. Like, if people cared about me for being Taylor Topham, a singer, that's not very good, man. I want people to, you know, care about or for how I look, or for anything. I want people to care about me for what I say, and like to idolize the parts of each other where we, you know, the positive parts, like helping people and doing things. Not like, oh, look how good they look, or look what they're doing. Like, I want it to be, look how they're helping others, and look what they're doing for other people.
Definitely.
That they're sharing, you know. And man, like, fuck, I'm so far off having a big following or anything like that. But on a small level, we can all do that with each other, with every decision we make, and everything we decide to share, you know. It's important to realize that individual ability to impact a wide audience, you know.
Totally. And I think, I don't know if you would agree, but that kind of, I suppose, might run true in your sort of music as well. When I listen to the musical content, your lyrics, and sort of what you talk about and what you sing about, it's all about sharing that love and that positivity, but not on some, you know, 1960s hippie level, from a very, you know, interesting perspective.
It's just real, man. Like a lot. You know, I always joke around saying a lot of my songs are quite depressing, but they usually have some sort of positive ending or some sort of meaning in them. But like, I just say what I feel, man, and stuff that's happened with me. Usually, like, struggles with living and basic things, relationships, friendships, you know, movement and things like that. But I just try and keep it as honest as possible, man. Like, I never want to create a platform or a song that's commercial just for the thought of it might, you know, encourage more people to be directed towards my way. And I'm not going to ever do that, man. Like, mate, honestly, you have no idea how many people on a daily basis, when I busk or something like that, mention X Factor or Britain's Got Talent and things like that. And like, it's so hard to explain. Like, that's not where I want to go, man, with my life. Like, I don't want to do that, man. Like, I don't want to. Like, I don't see that very much. Maybe one day, if like this pursuit of doing it on my own isn't going the way I want it to, but man, that is not the way for me. I can tell you that now. I see that, and all I see is just fake crap, man. Like, I really do.
And I think
I struggle with that.
You sort of going down the solo route musically, and also, you know, with the way you're pursuing your passion, I think it's actually going to create a stronger platform for yourself.
Yeah, hopefully, man. Hopefully it does. It's a shame that so much of it depends on social media presence now, it appears. I mean, obviously, like, it seems like it's stemmed away a little bit from the quality of the music, because there's so many amazing, I know so many incredible musicians, man, now, you know, who should definitely have songs that are up there. But it seems now like popular culture is just derived from social media followings and things like that. You know, people get breaks, and you know, and man, as well, like, I'm happy as long as I'm impacting a circle of people through music, or through, you know, through what I'm posting and things like that. Then I'm happy, man. I'm happy with that.
So do you think, you know, for yourself, you play on your own with just a guitar? Is that like a reflection of sort of this journey that yourself has found yourself on?
Yeah, maybe, man. I find it hard, man, as well. I think another thing is that, like, I've been asked quite a few times to play songs that other people have written. And, oh, can you sing this for me? Or I want to record it and you be the singer. Or can you write this for me? And things like that. And, like, I feel like if I can't really do that very well, because it's such a personal thing for me to write. When I try and sing someone else's songs, even when I do covers in public, man, I'm not really into covers as much. I just do it because people obviously like them, and that's fine. But it's definitely that creativity for me is like, is my journey that I'm sharing. You know, it's my soul that I'm bearing. It's experiences that I've had, and things that I see and want to share. And I think the minute I started, I would start doing that for other people, with other people, it'd be a different journey for me then. That makes
That's
sense.
Interesting you say that, because I think there's definitely this level of I don't know. Obviously, I don't know the music industry very well. I listen to it, but I don't know how it sort of operates.
And neither do I.
But I think there's definitely in photography, there's this sort of stigma to be different but fit within a genre, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we all have these influences, don't we? Like, you'll have some, you know, you'll probably be able to look at some people's work and be like, oh, I can see where Jake got his influences from there now. I mean, it's obvious. Like, if you listen to like a Ben Howard track, a couple of Dermot Kennedy tracks, you can probably see like the influence vocally. So there's nothing wrong with having those influences, I guess. But as long as you're not trying too hard to be someone, like, I always got told, like, you don't want to be the second-rate Ben Howard, you want to be the first-rate Taylor T. You know,
nice.
And you can have these influences, but as long as you don't let them take over your creative control, you know.
Yeah, totally. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's really easy to actually be inspired and then take that, if that makes sense.
Try and replicate,
yeah, 100%. When you see somebody achieve, like, especially a mainstream artist make a song, it's very easy to try and, I suppose, if you're really chasing monetary growth, to follow their path as well and make a song similar.
Yeah, and accidentally as well, man. Like, honestly, there's been some times, it's so funny, where I'll put down like a couple of lines, I'll write a couple of lyrics or a tune or something, I'll be like, oh, fuck, this is so good, like, this is unreal, like, I'm writing an absolute banger here. I'll like be so stoked, and then I'll be like, oh, wait a minute, and I'll be like, oh, shit. And the lyrics are like, minus a couple of words here and there, like, they're similar to a track that I've heard recently, and I'm like, oh, no.
That's where the
I thought I was on
inspiration
something. Yeah, that's what I mean. So you have got to be careful, man, because, you know, you have to, you know, it's just funny though. That's happened to me more than a couple of times, and I always laugh myself after, like, oh man,
100%. Man, I could totally imagine you sort of just look at it and go, oh fuck.
Yeah, being so happy as well, like so stoked, like, oh man, this is something, and I'm like, oh, that's way too similar. I'll get a lawsuit if I release that.
So obviously, as we've mentioned, you travelled a lot. I'd love to know, where's your favourite place you've been?
Favourite place? Oh man, I get asked that a lot, you know, and it's really hard because traveling's spanned over a few years now, and I've been different people in every single place I've been. So it's hard, but oh man, I always end up going back to like Byron Bay in Australia because I've got a lot of friends there now, and just for that culture and that environment. But then sometimes I think that's a bit fake, and I look to like New Zealand and places in New Zealand that I've been, climbing mountains and being with nature and the environment there. Do you know what? Bali as well. Bali's Asia, but they're all individually. I can't, man. I actually can't do it. But there's a few places where I found real peace, man. Where there's a place up the east coast in the North Island of New Zealand called Cathedral Cove, and it's this most beautiful place. And I went there as sun was setting and there was no one on the beach. Yeah, places like that, man.
Sounds beautiful.
Unreal. But the thing is as well, man, like I'm really finding beauty in England now, which I never thought I would do, because I've got a van, man, and like, you know, I can cruise around a little bit. I've spent a lot of time in Exmoor and Dartmoor and stuff, and man, like, there's some beauty there which is comparable to some of the parts of like New Zealand that I've been to, and some of the most beautiful parts I've been to in the world. And I always had this idea that, you know, England was shit, and you know, I'm not going to find what I'm looking for here. But as soon as you look into, you know, the beauty here, there is a lot to be found. There's a lot to be said for the countryside and for Devon and Cornwall, and probably up north as well. As I explore more, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting that you're sort of taken these experiences that you've learned in other countries and the beauty that you've seen in other countries, and now you're reflecting that and seeing that here. Yeah,
definitely, man. And I think that's something that's, you know, that's hard, but it's definitely important to realize that the person you are in all these different places changes, man, as you grow. Like that's why it's so hard for me to say where my favorite place is, because I loved going to Venice in Italy like 4 years ago, but the person I was then is so different to the person I am now.
Yeah,
and that doesn't affect my idea of that place. It's just like knowing that I love that place for different reasons. And if I went there now, I'd have a completely different experience there. But I don't know, it's hard. It's cool, man. It's really cool, because I can go to the same place now. Probably again, it feels so weird, because I'll be like, I remember when I was here. Hey, who was I then? That's so strange.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I think, you know, the saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I find always very interesting, because your eye for beauty changes, especially myself being a photographer. You know, my eye is constantly adapting and seeing new things and learning things that I like. So I can revisit places, i.e. my hometown in Burnham, you know, where I've been away, and now come back and I see it from a new perspective, which is actually really refreshing in some ways.
Yeah, and your taste and what you want, your direction in life changes, doesn't it, as you change as well and as you grow. So things that you used to like, you won't like anymore, and differently, like things that you never used to like, you'll like now. So
yeah, totally. So for me, I know we keep going back to the traveling thing, but I'm really interested because I've never traveled really. I've been on, you know, a couple of aeroplanes here and there. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily my, something that is a goal of mine. I'd like to see more places, of course, like most of us, but I think it'd be interesting because yourself is, you know, fairly extensively travelled, must have a good amount of knowledge, to just get some tips, you know, if anyone's sort of listening, some tips to sort of get about and get to other countries.
Oh man, like you can do it. The biggest tip is you can do it so much cheaper than you think you can. Like so much cheaper, man. Like everyone thinks like people must think that I've got a lot of money or something, or I got this money from somewhere. Like I've done so much traveling on nothing, man. Like Skyscanner, I see people book these return flights for like £1,500 to like Australia. My return flights every time I've been have been under £500.
That's
like
crazy.
Return to Australia, you know. So that's so much money saved. Then I lived in a teepee once in off the coast of Byron for about a month, and that cost me like $50 a week to live in. It was like £30 a week. You know, you can do things so cheap, man. Like food, you can do so cheap. Finding accommodation, you can do so cheaply. It's just being able to rough it a little bit. Like I've lived in some dives, man, and I've slept on sofas, I've slept in teepees, I've lived in a caravan, hostels, hotels, all different, you know, friends, bed, couches, all these things, man. I think it's just about being open to places and not having so much of a direct plan, and it sort of take you wherever you end up, not being so committed to like, this is what I need to see, this is what I need to do. I've got loads, man. I love talking about traveling. Also, like, try and get some wheels when you get out there, so you don't have just to take the standard travel route. Get yourself access to a car or a vehicle, and you can go and find all these crazy, wonderful places where no one really goes. It's like you got like the typical sort of Silk Road of traveling, like especially in Australia, like up the East Coast, like Sydney to Cairns. And if you have a car on your way up there, you can go and see so much more stuff and off the beaten track stuff, man. Like you don't have to do everything everyone always tells you to do. And also, as soon as you get anywhere, all your chat plans will change anyway. You'll meet someone or meet some mates or meet a girlfriend or boyfriend, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll just go with you now. And then you blow off your whole plans. You know? But I never planned to do anything that I wanted to do. I know I was going to Sydney and that was about it. And then I went all over the shop, you know, and didn't really plan on doing anything.
So did you travel alone or?
I flew over to my first ever time. I flew over to I flew over to America 2 years and on my own. I didn't know anyone there, but I flew over to Australia with my good friend Joe. God, he's such a funny guy as well. And then we went up from Sydney to Byron. There's a few spots on the way that we stopped off of, and then I wanted to stay there because I sort of fell in love with the place, and he did for a bit, and then he flew off to Melbourne. But I sort of made a little bit of a life in Byron for me, gigging and busking and working a little bit as well. And then I was sort of on my own, and I flew down to Sydney, and then had a girlfriend there for a while. And we drove from Sydney to Tasmania, which was a wild journey.
That sounds crazy.
Oh man, super long as well. Like in a little VW Beetle as well. Like it was super hippie life. Getting this boat over from Melbourne to Tasmania, and like, oh god, it was the roughest sea ever. Oh, it's just funny, man. I think things like that, which I never planned, man. Like I never thought I'd do that. I met this chick at a gig that I played, and then it just played out that I ended up spending a bit of my life with that person, you know. And like, I never planned that. Like, no. It's just being open to just whatever, man. Like, we'll see how you go. And
I think that's really interesting because, you know, being open is such I'm guessing such a big deal, you know, a big part of actually traveling.
And you learn as well, man. This is the thing as well. Being open to other people's opinions. Like, I'm quite probably an opinionated person in terms of I have, or if that's the right word, I have strong ideas and opinions and ideals on things, and probably morals on things as well. But you have to realize when you go traveling, you're meeting people from all over the world, all different countries, all different backgrounds, all different, religions and things that they practice and hold dear to their hearts. It's just being open, man. Like, otherwise, definitely, you soon realize that everyone's super different, but there's more things that connect us in the same way than things that make us different from each other. There's more things that make us similar than make us different. As long as you're open-minded and don't have if you can take someone else's opinion being different to yours, then you'll probably you'll be set for a wild journey, man. And this is the thing, man. Like, what I always say to people, man, is that like, if you're 20 now or 21 or anything, like, life doesn't have to start, man. Like, the way the society tells you to, like, a lot of people finish college and they'll go straight into a graduate job and they'll be 21 from uni, be 21, and they'll be stuck in that job then. Like, it's so much harder to leave a job when you're settled somewhere than it is just to go. 100%. And like, man, like I always say to people, they're like, people say to me soon, because once I'm 25, I got a lot of friends who are nearly 30, and a lot of friends that I've met who have travelled in their 30s or haven't travelled at all, and they think they're old, man. They think they're like done. And I'm like, man, like, I always say your 30s is like better than your 20s, because you got almost having a second go at your 20s. Like, you're old enough to have you've learned all the things that are probably not going to make those same mistakes again, and you're probably coming into the prime of how you look and what you want to do, and you have a solid probably idea of who you are. Like, man, it's never too late, man, to get life going in that way, for sure.
100%. I think I've been told that 30s is like when you hit your peak, I suppose, of like maturity and just immaturity at the same time.
Yeah, I guess you have a good idea of who you are by that point, where you hope so, and like, you know what's right, what your right and wrongs are, and you sort of have a better idea of how you live. And another thing I say to people, man, is like, it's hard, because I've met a lot of people who are so stuck in their ways. Like, the older you get, I think the harder it is to be open to change, because you're so your own conditioning and your own environment, you know what's right for you, but I'm trying to be as open as possible, man. Like, I don't want to ever get to a point in my life where I'm like, no, like, I know what I want now, I know what I want to do. Like, I'm always want to be open, man. I don't ever want to become someone who is so stuck in their ways that they're not open to new ideas of living and ways of living. But we see that now, man. We see a massive divide in whether it's politics or, habits of how we live and things we believe in through age groups, and it's statistically proven to be so different. And that's fine, man, but it's just accepting that people have been exposed to different things, and people are going to want different things from life. And we're at a very interesting point in life now where the older generation have experienced such a different growth period as we have, and the generation that's going to come after us, they're all going to be so different from each other. This is why it's quite difficult to make everything work, I think, because we've all been experienced to different things.
And I think we've all got different ideologies as well, different age, different generations have different ideologies. I think, our generation, and maybe the one just before us has much more open understanding of sort of potential avenues for work and career paths, but not just that, but sexuality and race and all these things. We're much more open to it compared to potentially an older generation. That's not pointing shade at anyone.
Yeah, of course. No, of course, man. There's always we're not saying everyone as a whole. Of course, there's always going to be a lot. I know heaps of older people that are great and super on the vibe and that you're talking about. But yeah, you are right, man. Like this new age sort of way of living is this new age society where everything is becoming more acceptable. But it's hard. I hope we don't go too far in that way. Obviously, in terms of rights and everything, I'm super above that. But it's hard now because even freedom of speech is getting a bit difficult now, isn't it? Because you can't really say anything without everyone getting too offended and stuff. I'm all for people. I'm the last. I don't want anyone to be offended by anything I say, but sometimes you have people. You can't be too hardcore that way. Otherwise, no one's ever going to say anything and nothing's going to get done. Do you know what? I keep saying this quote, right? And I heard this as well, which is super important. If the price to enter a debate is personal perfection, then we're all fucked. Because and I love that, man, so much. And it's because it's all right. You can talk about something and not do everything. You can do something positive and not do everything. You can be. You have to, if you're campaigning for women's rights or something, it doesn't mean you have to be like perfect in every other way.
No, that's very interesting that you say that, because I think there is this level of, going all the way back to the start of our conversation about body, the way we look at our bodies. It's this idea of perfection again. It's interesting you say that, actually, and how we are all, I think, especially myself, I'm very motivated in trying to be the best I can be, which can be fantastic on one hand and incredibly toxic on the other. So no, it's really interesting.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to quickly say that you had an EP out last year, was it? After War?
Yeah, After the War. Yeah, I recorded that in Sydney. Super electronic compared to my live stuff, but luckily enough, I met a great friend who hooked me up and helped me out a lot, and he had some good ideas. So yeah, I popped that one out last year, and there's a bunch more stuff I'm writing and working on at the moment. So
I was going to ask, is there any like lockdown lyrics that you're writing at the moment?
Yeah, little bits, man, little bits. I've a few songs are coming together. Well, to be fair, man, before this even started, the idea was I was going to momentarily be going into the studio. I was literally sorting it out with a studio locally before this all happened. So as soon as this is all cleared up, man, and we're back to normal, I'll be back in the studio trying to write some stuff down and get some stuff recorded for sure, man.
It's such a shame because I'd love to be able to say to the audience and whoever's listening to be like, Taylor's got this coming out at the end of XYZ, but we can't.
I know. No, it's all good. Just if anyone's listening, just stay tuned on the old social medias. And
I was going to say, where can people find you? Make sure you shout yourself out.
Yeah, cool, man. On Instagram, just Taylor Topham Music. Same on Facebook. Spotify would be great help if you can follow me on there. After the War EP all the links will be on my social media, but doing some bits on YouTube as well, and all those good places really. That'd be unreal.
Perfect. Well, no, I appreciate the time sitting down and having a chat.
Hey, no worries, man. It's been super good, eh? I'm glad you're doing this as well. It gives me I feel good for getting my truth out and giving me some freedom to speak as well, man. So 100%. Keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I will. And yeah, 100%. It's good to sit down and just air anything that needs to get out.
Yeah, man, especially in this time as well, because I don't really do a lot every day. I'm kind of just cruising along, trying to do bits, but keep yourself busy, and we'll be all right. It's all going to happen soon, I think.
Well,
sure.
Everyone who's listening and watching, make sure you go follow Taylor on all social medias, which will be linked down below. And no, thank you for coming on, man. Really appreciate the time and sharing everything as well.
Yeah, awesome, brother. Take care of yourself, Jake, man.
And yourself,
You're doing
man.
well.
I'll see you soon,
mate.
Bye,
bye, brother.
So that is it for episode 8 of the Faces for the Future podcast. I want to send a massive thank you to Taylor for being on this episode. If you guys want to find out more about Taylor's music, there is links down in the description below to his Instagram, his Facebook, and his Spotify. So please make sure you go over and send some love and support. I would really Greatly appreciate it. And also a massive thank you to you guys for listening and or watching this podcast, whether this is on Spotify and or IGTV. If you want to give us a follow, we're on Instagram at FFTF Podcast, Faces for the Future Podcast. It would be greatly appreciated. But I want to say a massive thank you again to Taylor and also for you guys for listening and watching this episode. We will be back very soon with another episode of the Faces for the Future podcast.